When Mirror's Edge first released in 2008, it became one of the very few games that made you stop and go,
Hold up, wait a minute.
At a time when everything seemed to be slapped with a sepia filter, Mirror's Edge came along, broke the rules, and upset the established order. This was sleek, stylish, and colourful, setting itself apart from anything else on the market at the time. But beyond the visuals, it wasn't just style over substance. This was a game built around movement, momentum, timing, and skill. You weren't just running from point A to point B, you were mastering the floor, chaining jumps, slides, and wall runs, almost like a physical puzzle. The controls demanded precision, and the risk of a single misstep could send you tumbling down, forcing you to learn and adapt fast. It was a game that earned your attention and dared to be different, but it was also a risky experiment in game design that set out to capture the thrill of parkour in a first-person interactive experience. So today, we're diving into what made it so unique, where it soared, where it stumbled, and why it still holds a cult following nearly 20 years later. This is Mirror's Edge. Developed by DICE and released on the PS3, Xbox 360 and PC, Mirror's Edge was initially created as a passion project due to development burnout from the Battlefield series. Even though they'd carved out a solid reputation with a large-scale multiplayer-focused shooter, they wanted to build something fresh, original, and smaller in concept. Owen O'Brien, a producer at DICE, wanted to explore physicality and body awareness in first person, with a focus on weight, momentum, and consequence that made players feel human. Their aim was to allow the player to become the protagonist Faith by focusing on movement and a feeling of immersion in the world.
Wanted to create a feeling of immersion in the world and in the character. So we wanted the player to feel each movement, feel the height when on a high rooftop, and the satisfaction of defying death with a perfectly timed jump, and to feel the ledge when you grab onto it and so on.
DICE didn't want a game just with parkour, they wanted parkour to be the game. They focused heavily on body awareness, and during gameplay you can see the result of this as you notice Faith's arms, legs and torso all animate in first person. They wanted you to feel the movement, not just see it. The devs even avoided things like floating HUD elements to keep immersion intact. By allowing players to fully immerse themselves as Faith, the level design then reflected her unique perspective. The world was seen through her eyes, with key objects highlighted in red, a feature known as runner vision, which acted like a super ability guiding her path forward.
It was about putting the player into our main character called Faith, and to visually describe how she perceives the world. So we did it by using strong, vibrant colors that illustrates how Faith focuses on the part of the environment that is relevant to her, and how the rest of the world becomes kind of peripheral when she's running through a level. We also designed something called runner vision that would highlight certain objects through the player's path to kind of form a red thread that would guide the player through.
Despite being made by a studio famous for shooters, the dev team actively de-emphasized gunplay. You could use weapons, but it was discouraged by design. Ammo was limited, aiming was clunky on purpose, and holding a gun slowed you down. The real reward was in staying unarmed and mastering movement, learning to use the environment to avoid combat or to use the momentum from free running to take down enemies. In fact, internal debates at DICE happened over whether to include guns at all. Initially, EA and even some developers at DICE saw the project as a risk. It wasn't a shooter, RPG or sequel, which made it difficult to market. As a new IP and a complete departure from their usual work, its commercial viability raised more questions than answers. However, once early footage started circulating within the studio, the team at DICE quickly got on board.
They really thought it was cool, so we continued to show it to people inside EA and so on. And I would say that this is one of the main reasons why the game got greenlit from the start. And it's pretty cool considering that we just spent a couple of weeks animating it and rendering it out. So here it is.
Even in its rough conceptual stages, the idea gained enough support to ultimately greenlight the project, and the rest is history. Mirror's Edge takes place in a sleek, hyper-clean dystopian city where surveillance and control are disguised as peace and order. The streets are sterile, the skies are clear, and everything looks perfect. But beneath the surface, it's a tightly controlled regime that monitors every message and every move. You play as Faith Connors, a runner, part of an underground courier network that delivers sensitive information by hand to avoid the government's watchful eye. The game opens with a training sequence atop the city's rooftops, quickly getting you familiar with its signature first-person parkour mechanics. The story kicks off when Faith learns her sister Kate, a police officer, has been framed for murder.
You. Running will just make me look guilty.
You think this was an accident, Kate? There are no accidents in this city.
What starts as a routine drop suddenly spirals into a deeper conspiracy, and Faith finds herself running not just to deliver messages, but to uncover the truth and protect her family. From here on out, it's a full-blown sprint through the city's glass towers, storm drains, construction sites, and more. You're dodging cops, avoiding helicopters, outrunning bullets, and staying in motion. Momentum is everything, and when you're in the flow, stringing together wall runs, jumps, and slides, that's where the game really clicks. From a technical standpoint, Mirror's Edge was quietly impressive for its time. It ran on the Unreal Engine 3, but DICE heavily modified it to get that clean, minimalist look. Most Unreal Engine games back then leaned toward gritty textures and dark tones. Gears of War comes to mind, but Mirror's Edge went the opposite way. High contrast, bright whites, and splashes of colour that weren't just for style, but for function. Those colour-coded elements, red pipes, red doors, red ledges, it was also part of the marketing and plays a vital role in the overall look of the game. Performance-wise, the game ran at 30 FPS on consoles, which was pretty standard for the time, but the PC version had unlocked frame rates and smoother animations, and it still holds up shockingly well today with some resolution tweaks and mods. Even though it's a very clean game visually, the lighting, shadows, and subtle bloom give it this almost clinical, futuristic atmosphere. The focus for Mirror's Edge is strictly a single-player game. No multiplayer, no co-op, no extra modes, just a focused, linear campaign, and honestly, that works in its favour. There's no fluff, no distraction, it knows exactly where it wants to be and it sticks to it. There are 3 difficulty levels, easy, normal and hard. On easy and normal, you get the full runner vision system, those red highlighted objects that help guide your flow through the environment. But on hard mode, that assist is completely stripped out. You're on your own. No red safety nets, and enemies hit a lot harder. It forces you to rely on pure root knowledge and instinct. The enemy AI is also pretty basic. Cops and security guards mostly just chase, shoot, or block your path. They're not tactical, and they don't really adapt. They're more like moving obstacles than real threats. But again, that fits. You're not supposed to stand and fight, you're supposed to run. If you're trying to box with a guy holding an assault rifle, you've already messed up. Loading times are surprisingly fast. If you mess up, and you will, you're back in the action within seconds. That quick restart is crucial in a game built entirely around momentum. The checkpoint system is smart and forgiving, and the game quietly streams in new areas as you progress, so you're rarely stuck waiting around. Even the elevators, which double as subtle loading zones, serve a dual purpose. They give the level time to catch up and give you a moment to breathe. It's clever design that keeps the pace tight without ever feeling forced. The level design in Mirror's Edge leans into verticality and fluidity. Every environment is built to feel like a puzzle box of momentum, and they're all carefully constructed to support parkour movement without ever feeling like a straight line. During your playthrough, you'll be jumping, rolling, wall running, vaulting, swinging, climbing pipes, sneaking through vents, and shimmying across ledges, and also dying. Its sleek, minimalist art direction and bold use of colour give it a timeless, stylish edge, even if some textures get a bit muddy and some of the character models look a little rough when you get too close. But overall, for its age, the game still looks fantastic. The cinematics in Mirror's Edge go for a bold, animated style that stands out. They're sleek, minimal, and match the game's clean aesthetic, even if the story they tell isn't always gripping. Still, they do a good job keeping the pace up and giving the world just enough personality between runs. But where Mirror's Edge really shines is in its sound design. Every footstep, breath, gunshot and smashing of glass, it all sounds grounded and physical. You hear Faith's shoes skid, her breath pick up when sprinting, and the wind howling past her ears as she leaps across rooftops. It sells the movement in a way that visuals alone couldn't. And then there's the soundtrack, composed by Solar Fields. Ambient, atmospheric, with this dreamy electronic tone that never overwhelms the action and sets the tone perfectly. Mirror's Edge is one of my favourite games of all time. It's not perfect, the combat is clunky, the story is okay at best, and it can be completed in 3 to 4 hours. But honestly, to me, none of that matters. It's one of the most replayable games in my collection, and the addictive gameplay mechanics keep me coming back all these years later. This is one of those rare games that had a vision, stuck to it, and didn't care if it wasn't for everyone. It dared to be different in how it looked, how it played, and what it asked from you as a player. And in 2025, we desperately need more of these experiences. I'm starting to get tired of all the remakes and remasters. Even now, nearly 2 decades later, there's still nothing that feels quite like it. It's sleek, it's stylish, and when you're in the zone sprinting across rooftops and nailing every wall run and vault, it's pure adrenaline, the kind of game that makes you feel like you're in total control until you're not. It may not have been a mainstream hit, but the people out there like me who love Mirror's Edge, they really love it, and that's the criteria for a cult classic that will stand the test of time. I just hope we eventually see more from this beloved series.